Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. What we've been looking at is we're seeing right now the end result of, we're seeing the end result of thousands or hundreds of thousands of students applying for these certificates of eligibility and only a small number of them actually enrolling. Well, why is that? It's because a certificate of eligibility is two things. It is a contract, and the most important thing it is that it's a calculation. It is a calculation of what benefit you're going to receive under this convoluted definition of tuition and fees that the VA has essentially come up with. The fatal flaw in this system is that the VA's interpretation of tuition and fee benefits is, in addition to being very confusing, does not sync with what the rest of the world defines tuition and fees. In fact, among schools, they use the terms tuition and fees very interchangeably, and the VA does not. It is our position that the whole premise of the post-9/11 IAVA is that a veteran can go to a public undergraduate school for free. Why don't we just pay whatever the school charges for tuition and fees for a public undergraduate school without going into this convoluted, overly complicated system? I mean, right now we have thousands of veterans that are realizing that while schools use the words tuition and fees interchangeably, the VA does not. And this arbitrary split is really without any sort of precedent in law, in VA, or in EDCO. And what we've seen this year, we've seen tuition caps change 587% since the VA's final posting date. And so it's impossible for a veteran to, even with a certificate of eligibility, to determine what it is they're going to get throughout the year. We have had hundreds of students who thought, based on the VA's charts that were published, they were going to get one thing, and they find out they're on the hook for thousands of dollars because the school doesn't define tuition and fees as stringent as the VA does. Or like in Massachusetts, where they changed their tuition and fee structure after the VA's reporting deadline, and so the VA now has to go back and reprocess all those claims again, creating an additional burden. Or California, which is having to raise tuition and fee rates, or actually fee rates, because California doesn't charge tuition. We've all talked about that before. Midterm, due to the budget crisis. Now we're going to have to recalculate all that again, because we've set up this arbitrary system that does not sync with the systems that we're trying to interface with. And so, I mean, it's been our position that why don't we just, if it's public undergraduate school, you get paid. The school gets paid. And then we establish a baseline, a national baseline for the Yellow Ribbon Program. Because when we're really talking about tuition and fees, what we're talking about is how do we calculate the Yellow Ribbon Program? We can establish a national baseline that's fair, mostly across the board, but still keep the promise to veterans. And I think that it's a bit more of a radical overhaul in the system. I think Mr. Wilson is absolutely correct when he says that brute force is going to have to be a method we're going to use in the short term. But when we talk about actually fixing the root of the problem, I think we need to start talking structure.